Hey, board gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back in the Gumbo pot. It's another episode of Gumbo Live, episode number 142. Gumbo Live, the number one Facebook Live talk show in Omaha, Nebraska, dedicated to board gaming. There's a reason we picked that town. Our special guest tonight, Keith Law, the author of The Inside Game and Smart Baseball, and senior baseball writer for The Athletic. I've been reading him since way back in ESPN, and more particularly for our show, a board games writer for Pace Magazine. We're going to be talking games, maybe even get into the Spiel nominees. But hit us up on social media tonight, on Twitter or on Facebook at Board Game Gumbo. You can also catch his writing at meadowparty.com. Meadowparty.com, that's his blog about board games and everything else. And we'll be looking for your questions in the chat crew. But enough blather, let's get right to our special guest, Keith Law. Welcome to Gumbo Live, man.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, Keith, why did I pick Omaha, Nebraska? Any clue?
There's a really good board game cafe there.
That is true, but also it's the College World Series.
Ah, yes.
And you handle minor league prospects and college college participants, and that is also the home of Our Family Plays Games. So that's why I'm wearing this T-shirt tonight. We've got the whole Keith Law, Omaha, Our Family, everything covered all in one little segue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Speaking of that,
Omaha's a great town, by the way.
It is.
I can't remember the name of the board game bar cafe there, but just the whole. I was there a couple of years ago when I was still with ESPN. We were doing a show, Baseball Tonight, at the stadium, like between games of the College World Series.
Right.
And it's funny. Some of the guys I was with were like, "We're just going to Sullivan's Steakhouse." I'm like, y'all are crazy. This is a great town.
Yeah.
There's just Sullivan's here in Delaware. I don't need to go to Omaha to go to Sullivan's.
I didn't even go to the one in Omaha. I went to the one in Council Bluff. It's even less. Yeah.
Yes.
I went to the one across the river because that's where we were staying.
Yes.
My trip was in 2000 when LSU and Stanford played for the national championship. So that was a long time ago. Yeah. So that was a long time ago. Speaking of that, who is the best pitcher in baseball and why is it not Paul Skeens?
In college baseball, it is Paul Skeens. It's definitely Paul Skeens. He is the hardest throwing amateur pitcher I've ever scouted myself. He, for folks who don't know, he is a right-hander at LSU. He transferred from Air Force to LSU this year. At Air Force last spring.
Hitter
and pitcher. Now he's just a pitcher, but he was both at Air Force. And he was mostly 92, 95 last year at Air Force. Gives up hitting, comes to LSU. Basically right out of the chute this year is sitting 99 to 100. I go see him at the end of April at a game that ended up in the news because it turned out it was the game that got the Alabama coach fired for being involved in gambling. I didn't know this at the time. I'm just sitting there behind the plate with another scout, and we're just.
Did you turn him in? Were you watching his little video?
You know what? He didn't. I got to tell you, like, he didn't manage like he was trying to lose the game or anything. It's that I would remember that because I'm generally, when managers do stupid things, I'm generally pretty critical. But anyway, Skeens comes out first inning. It's 7 pitches at 100 or 101. I think he topped out at 101.4 on the TrackMan. And I'm like, I've never seen anything like this before. Oh, and he's 6'6", 260. So he's built
that guy in for 10 Ks, 7 innings, like clockwork all season. And he hit, I want to say he hit 20 bombs for Air Force and hasn't picked up a bat yet.
Yeah, and you know what? He's probably, I mean, there's myriad reasons why a pitcher can pick up that
breaking
much
the
velocity,
hand.
But you can, you know what, the one thing, it's sort of an old maxim too, is that if you're trying to do both, you're going to probably end up worse at both. So you take a hitter or a pitcher and say, we're just going to have you focus on one thing. It'll be easier for him to develop at that one thing. I mean, I think a lot of it is cognitive, right? How much can you really keep in your mind when you're trying to learn to be both a hitter and a pitcher and develop your craft both ways? It's just that much easier to say, no, we're just going to have you focus on one thing. I'm going to say, I think he made the right choice to stick with the pitching thing.
He made the right choice. We got a few people checking in. We got Patrick Newman from South Texas checking in with us from the Gulf Coast. And talking about Sobo, that's our local con. I know PAX U, I think, is your local con, basically. Yep. Yeah,
ours is Southern Board Game Fest. And I'll be at Gen Con this year. I haven't missed a Gen Con since 2016. So.
If you haven't read it, check out Keith's post Gen Con. I read it every year, Keith. It's your little where you go through all the games. What I forgot what you call it. It's like your first impressions of all the games you played, basically.
I do a top 10 or something because people love a ranking, and then it's just like the dump. Right here is absolutely everything that was in my notebook, which is kind of how I treat the day job too. It's like, all right, here's all the players I saw. Here's a little note on everybody.
There's the Beans and Dice crew checking in. Carlos from Tampa, beautiful Tampa. What's up, Carlos? Thank you for checking in. Our buddy Jay Bell, the Jay Bell checking in. He stayed up late. He is somewhere in London, and he stayed up late to watch the show. So thank you, Jay, for checking
Awesome.
that out. You might know this one, Kelly checking in. This is your nemesis, and I want to hear this story. How is it that you and Kelly have gotten to be such board game rivals on Board Game Arena?
God, well, it started on Yukata.
Okay.
Kelly could probably correct me, but it's got to be 4 or 5 years ago, and I think we just randomly ended up paired in a game together. And
Kevin, no, he's not going to be in that show.
oh no, Kevin's right. Hi,
Oh, is he?
Kevin.
I want him local so I could see him play. You know, maybe the Astros or the Rangers. But go ahead. You were saying about Kelly.
No. He he's definitely not getting to the Astros pick. I can promise you that.
Thank you for checking in, Kevin. Do you know Kevin, by the way?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I have votes for women in my review queue right now. Actually, great looking game.
And the next one coming out looks really good. The one about the Mexican American War. So
I love the themes. I absolutely love, and the commitment.
And the production.
The production is great. You know what? Sometimes fewer games at a higher production level, higher level of quality. I'm in.
I call them connoisseur games. It's like you want to show these games off, right? All right, back to Kelly.
Yeah. So Kelly, yeah. So Kelly, so we started on Yukata a couple of years ago, and we tend to like a lot of the same games too. And we're both the sort of people where we want to try new games as much as possible. And it's also, so we played a bunch of the stuff on Yukata. Yukata is a great site. It's very low key.
Love it.
I haven't played there as much anymore. I haven't played there that much in a couple of years since shifting over to Board Game Arena, because there's just more games there. That's really the thing. There were certain games I was particularly looking for, and Yukata lost a few licenses for certain games. I go over to Board Game Arena. I think I'm there about 20 minutes, and all of a sudden I get a message from Kelly like, "Oh, hey, you're over here now. Let's play." And we're both alpha testers on there too. But Kelly is also my go-to, where she's like, "There's this new game on here. Do you want to check this out?" I'm like, my answer is always yes. I will always try something, because we've played so many games together too. We know each other's style. It's very, we don't really care necessarily. I mean, we play to win, but there's none of that competitiveness. We can both say, "Hey, this is a new game. We're just kind of messing around, try to figure it out." And eventually we played a few times. Like, all right, we'll play more seriously now. She was the one who mentioned when Earth first showed up there. I had seen an early prototype of Earth at PAX U 2 years ago, and then hadn't heard anything new about it. And then suddenly it pops up on BGA, and ended up getting a review copy like shortly afterwards. But the timing was more like Kelly was the one who said, "Oh no, Earth is out. Have you heard of this game?" I'm like, "God, yeah, you're going way back in my memory banks for that one. It's a great game. I know we'll talk about it a little bit later." But I mean, Kelly and I have probably played, it's got to be north of 50 distinct games, and probably played several hundred.
Are you a BGG stats person?
No. No, I just can't. It's just too much.
I was always that baseball guy. Like, I was terrible at playing baseball. I was the one that would tell my dad, "Hey, Billy Storms, he's like 7 for 8 in the last game. We can't pitch to that guy." I was like, "What are you doing?" I was that guy. Like, they called me Ogilvy when I was on the team. That's an old reference, but so naturally when I got into board games, obviously I want to keep the stats, man. Just gotta.
It's funny because so my wife is a huge fan of the band Fish, and she will talk about her Fish stats. And I have some Fish stats. I've been to, I think, 5 shows so far. 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. And I keep, so it's sort of like I don't know, it's not a running gag, but like people know this about me, that I was just talking about to one of my stepdaughters earlier tonight. I have a spreadsheet that goes back to 2005 with every book I've read, start date, end date.
There it is.
Title and author.
There it is.
And then one sort of master spreadsheet for sorting purposes, so I can find out like how many books I've read by somebody, or it's particularly useful if I'm like in a bookstore, right? Have I read this book before? Because when it's, I'm turning 50 in 2 days. Like, I don't necessarily remember if I read that book. Thank you. 20 years ago, right? But I have a list. The list is super useful. I don't even remember what made me start it, but now I can't stop. I mean, I log everything. There has to be an upper limit, right? There's only so many things I can log in my life. And I think board games is like, I log what games I own, but I don't log every play, which I know a lot of people do. And I have no disrespect to those people. I just can't. I have to say no.
You write for Pace Magazine. So you want to publish a blog entry about this game with Pace Magazine. They're going to take care of all that. I've got to find the pictures. I can't steal
Right.
pictures from the internet. So I keep track of every play because when I do write about a game, I can go look in BG stats. There's like, I have like 28,000 photos and about 25 of those 1,000 are board games, on my iPhone. I can't find them. BG stats is the way to find the game that I need for the blog. So it made it pretty easy. So we got a couple other people checking in. Evan Helbert is checking in. Evan is the designer of After the Empire, and we're going to be playing with him and Kelly this summer. I have known Kelly for years. I've played hundreds of games with her, played many online, even on Discord, with the face, but I've never met her. So this is going to be fun.
Oh, wow.
We're going to be doing a little convention.
There's a chance Kelly and I might meet this summer because the All-Star Game's in Seattle. And I don't go for the All-Star Game itself, but I go for the Futures Game, which is on Saturday. And then the draft, they hold that now in the city where they're holding the All-Star festivities. And that'll be Sunday, Monday. So it depends on our schedules working out, but it'll be the first time I'll be anywhere close to her, at least.
Seattle, you say?
First. Yeah, it's in Seattle.
Steve, he needs to put a pin on that. Seattle. Not even telling you why. All right, Boda Belly checking in. Nick allegedly went to a BGG con. I doubt it because I did not see him at all the entire con. We texted each other, but never saw him. Bill says, hey, Bill Laissez is the designer of Koi. I don't know if you ever got to play Koi from Smirk and Dagger. Beautiful game about the fish.
Yes, beautiful fish game. Yes.
That is him checking it. So we've got a bunch of people checking it. Oh, actually, I can't even keep up with the comments. So sorry, I'm a little bit behind. We'll try to catch up to some of them. But you might want to check this out. Nick said he's got 35 fish shows.
I think my wife said 57.
Sorry, Nick.
Yeah. But I'm at I think it's 5.
We're going
to go to 2 more this summer. We're going to 2 when they play in Philly.
I didn't see VJ either, just pics of him fishing. I was tubing, not fishing, but I took a break from the con and we went over to a lake and we did some tubing on Memorial Day. So that was it was nice to get away from you. As much as I love board gaming, it was nice to have a little time away. Let's bring in the name father and Verla, who's going to be helping me out. What's up, Verla? And this is Steve, the name father and Verla. Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you just fine.
Okay, good.
Yep. Hey, Lee, how you doing?
I want to hear from Keith. Every superhero has an origin story. So what is your board gaming origin story? Give us the elevator pitch. What happened?
Well, there's probably 2 distinct points. So as a kid, I loved board games, puzzles, anything like that. Like I played a little D&D. I wasn't a huge D&D guy because I found it a little bit slow, but I liked the idea of it, at least. Anything like that was sort of intellectual play would appeal to me. I got Games Magazine. I don't even know if that still exists, but I freaking loved Games Magazine. With cover to cover, doing all the puzzles, and they would review games occasionally that I hadn't heard of. And I was like, oh, there's other board games besides the 4 that we have in the front hall closet, which I think was like Monopoly, which I hate.
Payday.
Yeah, we definitely had Payday.
Life
at some point. We had Life. That sucks. These games are all terrible, right? Scrabble, which I will go to my grave saying Scrabble is work.
Pit was good.
I have to memorize. I've never played Pit. I know Pit, but I've never played it. If I have to memorize word lists to play a game well, it's work. That's not play.
That's a good point.
We had Sorry, which is one of the most obnoxious games ever created. We definitely had Candyland, which I will repeat myself. Some of you may have heard me tell this joke before. Candyland is the perfect game to play with your kids if you want to teach them that life is pointless and random.
Oh, wow. What a terrible lesson to teach your kids. But I guess.
Yeah. Maybe not inaccurate, but probably not what I wanted.
They didn't use that on the box?
No, they did not. They rejected. I offered. I said I would license it. They were not receptive.
That would have been
it's the game that makes it okay to cheat, right? Because your kid, the game takes forever, right? So you just tell your kid, hey, is that a bird at the window there? You won. Good job. That's great. Let's go do literally anything else for the rest of the day.
Welcome to Candyland. You'll hate it here.
Yes.
Evan wants to know, what about Upwards? Was that one in the
I had Upwards as a kid. Yeah,
I've never played it.
I kind of liked Upwards. Yeah, I remember that was supposed to be sort of the Scrabble plus, Scrabble alternative. I did get, and I still own, the copy of Acquire that I had in the old teal box. It's barely holding together. But I got in the mid 80s. I remember bringing it to CTY summer camp. There's probably somewhere out there, a fellow CTY attendee out there. I remember reading about diplomacy, never getting to play it as a kid. And then, life goes on, right? Again, high school, college, out of college, never, sort of forgot about it, had nothing exposing me to the board game world. And then somewhere along the line, read about this thing called Settlers of Catan. Not the first of these games that I got, but read about it, that it was in the Games Magazine Hall of Fame. I'm like, what the hell is that? How have I never heard of this? And ended up getting, in fairly short succession, got the 2-player version of that, which is nowhere near as good. My now ex-wife bought Ticket to Ride Europe. I think she's got it like Barnes & Noble or something. And had been on a trip to Europe and got I think it's an Uwe Rosenberg game called Babel. And somewhere you sort of throw those 3 together and mix them in. And I wanted more. That's really what ended up happening. And would mention them occasionally on my blog, and people would chime in and say, well, have you played this? Have you played this? Have you played this? And once it's one of those things, it's like the bat signal, right? As soon as you say the name of one of these games, 50 people will show up and say, well, have you played this one? Exactly. Have you tried this? Which is great. I was at that point, I was very much looking for more suggestions. I was like, I like these games, but I don't know a lot of them. And the more that I learned, and the more that people would say, oh, check this site, look at this site. Oh, go to board. Are you on Board Game Geek? Why am I not on Board Game Geek? I set up an account there, and I am there. I'm just under my own name. I'm still there. I trade games. I sell games on there. I sell review copies and then give the money to charity.
Right.
So I'm on there constantly. I have that open in a tab right now, actually. And have made a lot of great friends through board gaming, through going to conventions, or even just online. I've met up with people, a couple readers of mine, that I've ended up, they happen to live close enough to me. We've met up in real life to play. There's one guy who lives in South Jersey, but it's actually not that far from me. But I know if I get a really long, crunchy game, he will always be up for it. In fact, he even bought my review copy of Feast for Odin. I'm like, that's all you, buddy. I never need to see it. Just take it. Right. It was it was the Simpsons, right, where he tries to bring the trampoline back and Krusty is like, just keep moving. Yeah, right. That was me with Feast for Odin. I never need to see that game again.
Don't even turn around.
Yeah. So
Jay says he'd love to see modern versions of some of these games. No, Restoration Games does a good job of bringing back some of these games that I remember.
Yep.
But going even deeper, what about taking the kernels of these games that we played that we didn't realize weren't very strategic, and making them strategic or giving them some depth? I mean,
Monopoly doesn't have to suck, right? In fact, there's a great PBS documentary that was in February. It's about an hour long. I'm pretty sure you can find it on pbs.org, where they talk about the actual origins of Monopoly, the woman who really invented the game and who basically got the idea stolen from her. And it's actually this interesting origin with the Quaker community in Atlantic City, which is why all the streets have the Atlantic City names. That game doesn't have to suck, but it does. Certainly lots of these games could be rethought, redesigned. I mean, that's a lot of what Restoration Games does. I mean, probably all know Rob. And I remember having a conversation with him about, I think it was Keys to the Kingdom. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, the original wasn't that good. It was certainly Dark Tower. Dark Tower, people have great memories of.
I played it
because I remember the original commercial. I never saw the game.
We played it till we broke it. That's how much we played it.
I think a lot of people.
But it was a terrible game.
It didn't take much to break it either. It was
That's
pretty
what I heard.
Plastic.
Yeah. So there's a buddy of mine who works for a major league team who was obsessed. He's like, if you ever find a copy of that game, we played the hell out of it. Like, I ended up interviewing him for the article I did on Vulture on Restoration's efforts to bring Dark Tower back. Okay. But there was another conversation with Rob where it's like, the original wasn't that good. So we want to bring the memories. We don't want to mess with people's nostalgia, but we also want a good gaming experience. And I would bet you there are a lot of those out there.
Upcoming remake of Sorry Not Sorry.
Don't you dare.
Don't you dare
wish
Evan.
that evil on any of us.
Sorry Not Sorry.
I've never played Sorry with any. It is a good name for a game. I have never played Sorry with any of my kids.
Mine was Dungeon. I had great memories of playing Dungeon in high school. Like, we
game doesn't hold up.
Loved it. Oh. So I bought it off of eBay, brought it to my kids, and I'm like, wow, this game is boring.
It's really bad. Actually, really,
you know what's
really
funny?
Bad.
They were like 9 and 12, same age as I was when I was playing it. Maybe I was 13 or 14. Mm-hmm. They loved it. They loved it till they lost the pieces. So maybe it's just not an adult game.
The game for me, the one I didn't mention that my sister and my parents and I used to play a lot was Stop Thief.
Yeah.
which a lot of folks didn't remember until Restoration brought it back. And their version's great. I still went and got one of the originals because I wanted the phone, right?
Yep.
The really ridiculous phone with the beep, 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 beep. I wanted all that. Absolutely.
My mother-in-law
We got a
passed-
working copy.
My mother-in-law passed away 2 years ago. So we're cleaning out her house 2 years ago. In the back corner of one of the guest bedrooms, an original copy of Stop Thief.
Yes.
Didn't work though, unfortunately.
Mm.
Somebody left the batteries in it, Steve, and it just,
Just corroded.
corroded out.
Yeah.
Bummer.
There it is. But I do
Yeah.
remember Stop Thief as a kid. I mean, anything that had electronics like that, that was just something you
Oh,
wanted.
that was the thing, right? It was the rage, right? All these, because these were big, but for folks who are younger, don't remember, the board games back then, unless you found an independent publisher, it was, Milton Bradley or, Parker Brothers before they were put, these were all independent game publishers too. And that was one of the things they tried to jump on. Oh, we can put some kind of 8-bit electronic thing in. We can market that. I mean, that's essentially what Dark Tower was. They just put more, there was more, but that was really the real concept. And I think there was maybe less attention paid to actually designing a good game around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jay wants to know Food Chain Magnet. Are you familiar with, have you played any of the Splatter spelling games? Any of those?
I
Food
know
Chain?
I know of it. I have never played it.
Yeah. So, I could see where people would say that Monopoly. There's a game that I love called Magnate. The First City, I think is the name of it. By Naylor Games, have you played that one? That
No,
is like
know that one.
Monopoly on steroids. There are some games that, in fact, we played one this weekend. Oh, I wish I could remember which one it was. We played one this weekend. We all looked at each other and said, this is what Monopoly was trying to do. The problem, as you said, is that we all house rule Monopoly to death. And we turn it from a game that might be something into something that's just long, boring, and terrible. So,
yeah, well, that's my, the problem I tell people about Monopoly is, oh, hi, Dean. We've got an active, Dean and I have an Azul game going right now.
There it is.
I think it's your turn, Dean.
Take your turn, Dean.
TikTok.
Oh, I should have said that. We said we're Kelly's nemesis and Dean Dunning's best buddy.
There you go.
He says Magnet is excellent. He's backing me up there, Keith.
Oh, there you go.
Can't get a try.
Yeah. I tell people, you guys must have the same experience too. Forgive me if I'm talking too much. I don't mean to dominate.
It's your show.
Here.
No.
We're just here for the ride.
You're the guest.
Well, you've probably had this experience, right? Where people find out you're into board games and they go, oh, like Monopoly? You die a little inside, right?
Uno?
And then you put
I just
yourself
love
back.
Uno.
Uno. Oh, yes. Yeah, exactly.
Man, that would be a cool
Oh,
T-shirt. It said ... like Monopoly ?
Yeah, seriously. There you go.
That'd sell.
That would sell. Huh? Like Monopoly. I can't tell you how many times I've been asked that question.
So I have
Don't even know.
A spiel. No pun intended. I guess pun intended.
Mhm.
I can take
A
credit for
game?
that. I didn't actually intend it, but when people say that, because you don't want to be rude because they may love Monopoly, and also just like you don't want to shut down the conversation, right? Somebody is trying to engage with you on your terms. This is your hobby. And you say, there's actually other games out there that I like a lot more. I don't really care for Monopoly. And I try to just run through some of the very, very short reasons why. But the biggest one, because everyone remembers this, is that you can tell pretty early who's going to win. And then you have to play the thing out forever. And nobody enjoys that. Everyone's had that experience. Nobody enjoys that experience. And then I can say, most of these games that I like, players don't get eliminated. Very, very few of these games that we all enjoy are like that. King of Tokyo to me is one of the sort of great exceptions, which is still a great game. But most of these games, players don't get eliminated, and they're built in a way that you can come back. So you can, it addresses what I think is probably the most universal criticism of Monopoly. And that's a way to hook people in and say, no, I'm going to tell you about better games, but I'm going to tell you about them by addressing the thing you probably don't like about Monopoly, even if you wouldn't necessarily articulate that up front. Because the whole point, if somebody says something like that, they're a little interested in games.
Maybe you might hook them.
And you might hook them.
You could
I
do
know
like
lots of
Evan, though.
people.
You could do
I
like
know
Evan and
lots
just say, I love losing for 3 hours. I love
3 hours.
Monopoly.
Yes, exactly.
I love
Yeah,
losing
no,
for
that's
3
me
hours.
when I played Tzolk'in. Unfortunately, a game I really like and I'm really, really bad at. Especially on BG. If I ever want to just feel bad about myself, oh, Dean took his turn. I can see he took his turn.
You know what? You take your turn, and I'm going to get this next thing ready. That's actually perfect. Let's see if we can get this.
That's
Hey,
great. Let's
BJ
see
from
what
Morgan Gumbo
tiles
here.
he
I've got my
stuck me with.
BJ from Morgan Gumbo. I've got my guest here, Keith Law. baseball and board game writer. That's why he's on the show. And we're talking spicy hot games. One of those is a game that I have opinions, but these are not valid opinions at all. Keith, tell us about Earth. Earth is everywhere, by the way. It was all over BGG Spring.
I believe it. It is. And it is on Board Game Arena for folks who
Evan, really? J.R.R.
Oh,
Zolkin?
that's really
Really?
bad. That's really bad. I am sentencing you to mortar. So I've described Earth for people as kind of Wingspan squared, which is a little bit of a pun because if you've seen Earth, also you are building a 4x4 tableau of cards too. So it's actually a square.
I get jokes. I like it.
Yes, yeah, I have jokes. I'm a dad. People, my wife is always like, "That's a bad dad joke," or sometimes my daughter says that to me, and I'm like, "I'm a dad. This checks out." Right? It's actually part of the job description.
It is.
So Earth is, I really like Earth. I gave it a really glowing review on Paste about 3-4 weeks ago. It is a great game for folks who like Wingspan and just want more of that and want a game that does more of the things that Wingspan does well. Which is not to say I think it's better than Wingspan. I think it is more of, Wingspan's been out for several years. There's a couple of great expansions for it. But I think a lot of folks have played enough Wingspan that they feel like, I'm ready for something different. And I feel that way about certain games too. You know what? I love Ticket to Ride. I will still say it's one of the greatest games ever. It is my go-to recommendation for those people who are like, I want to play a game with my kids and I don't have any. I don't have we have Monopoly and that's it. Ticket to Ride's the one I suggest. I will never pull Ticket to Ride off the shelf myself to play anywhere. I would like it if someone asks me to play it, great. But I've played lots of Ticket to Ride. I feel like I've hit my fill with that. And I think people get that a little bit with Wingspan because we all loved it. I don't really know many people who disliked it. Earth brings that same experience, but does a lot more of it. And I think it's about a half grade up in complexity. I tend to think in sort of the grades the way I scout players. And to me, this, I think of full grades and half grades. This is about a half grade up. This is not a super complex.
A 5-tool player?
This is, I don't know, is Earth a 5-tool player? It's definitely a 4-tool player.
It goes to 4, or it goes to 5, sorry.
Does it hit for average?
So what Earth
we broke him,
does,
Steve. He went blue screen there for a second.
He did.
You have too many there's too many jokes, references, Verla taking us seriously.
You went to Saber. You were going for the sabermetrics. I could see the sabermetrics dad joke coming in there.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Earth's probably, maybe a little higher on the OPS.
He was working on it.
Yes, there's a launch angle joke in here somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So
I've got Earth for $4. $4 Earth. I need it in my utility fielder. $4. Come on, let this through so we get in this draft, please.
So for folks who haven't played Earth, you are building a tableau rather than the 3 distinct rows of bird cards that you play in Wingspan. You are playing cards that will show flora and fauna and some landscape cards to your tableau 4x4. So you're going to play 16 cards over the course of the game, or up to 16 cards. When somebody's played their 16th card, that triggers in game. And lots of these cards have different actions and then interactions. You can build lots of chains of bonuses so that when anyone takes a specific master action on their turn, you might get to activate a whole bunch of your cards. There, you can actually see 3 of the actions right there, which I think is plant, grow, and water. That might be correct. Might not be correct, but there's 4 potential actions. And on everyone's turn, whatever master action they take, you then activate every one of your cards that has that color on it, showing that you can take that particular action. There are also various public and private objectives you're trying to achieve. There are end game bonuses. It is all of the things, again, that we like about Wingspan, or a lot of games like this that have that various way you're building something, whether it's a tableau or an engine of some sort, and trying to meet a number of objectives to get points in lots of different ways by the end of the game. I mean, the point totals in this tend to run into several hundred, but it's an extremely satisfying experience. And that's what I find that people tell me when I introduce Wingspan to them. We've played it with a bunch of first timers, and even when they don't necessarily score well, everyone I've ever played that with will say at the end, I really like that, because they feel like they did something. And that's one of the things I just really enjoy about board gaming myself as a hobby. I don't usually care if I win. It's much more, did I enjoy it? Did I feel challenged by what I was doing? And Earth is one of those games that's really rich, despite not, I think on BGG, they don't rate it as particularly complicated or complex, but it's meaty. There's a lot to it. And it looks, you can see from the photos here, this game looks great. I think I was saying before we were on the show, I saw a prototype at PAX Unplugged at the Inside Up booth. So that's a year and a half ago or so, and it has come a long way. And just looks fantastic. Looks fantastic on the table. Looks fantastic on BGA, actually. I really like how that looks. I wish I had a larger monitor to be able to get it all in. I end up zooming in and out quite a bit when trying to play it online.
You do have to scroll a lot on BGA when you're playing it. Yeah.
Especially to see if you want to see what anybody else is doing. That's the one thing. But I mean, that's true of a lot of games, actually, where, God, I was playing Applejack at one point. I was like, I have to look down and see what's going on. What is happening? Where's mine? I mean, that's just the hazard of playing online. Nothing will ever beat the tabletop. I play games online because I just love games, but I will always choose to play at a tabletop or here it's a tabletop, it's a coffee table, it's the floor. It is wherever you want to play a game. That's fine. I'm down. I don't really care what the surface is.
So I was telling you before the show in the green room that my problem with playing it on BGA before I learned it, sometimes I can pick up a game. This one has so many prompts that I just got a little bit annoyed because not with the game itself, the fact that I didn't know what the prompts are asking me for.
Right.
So, but that tells me that there must be a lot going on even when it's not your turn. And I love games like that. Is that a factor with Earth?
Yes, you're never bored. And isn't that I feel like I followed those guys on Instagram, the Never Bored Gaming. This feels like a game for them, right? They're never bored. You're never bored. You're never not doing something. It will, on everyone else's turn, you should have something to do, something to activate. And to me, that is a great game design. I know not every game can do that, but I really enjoy that where I'm always getting something based on the action that you took. And so I'm always involved and even hoping you do one thing or thinking, all right, if Steve's going to take the grow action, then I do this and this and this. Oh, wait, if Verla takes the water action, I'm doing this and this and this. So you're constantly engaged. And I love a game that is like that just gets me, you're always thinking about possibilities, always planning ahead just a little bit. I'm not a chess player. I don't need to plan ahead 15 moves, but just to constantly keep me there. And so that no one is thinking, where's my phone? Or I need to go get a beer or something. No. I'm in the game. There's plenty of time for the beer afterwards.
Right. I remember the first time I played Scythe, and there may be games before that because I've been playing games I just don't remember when. But I remember the first time I felt that feeling was when in Scythe, and I'm getting taught the game, and they said, okay, and now you can get the benefit because I took this action. And I remember going, holy cow, what an awesome feeling. Well, I kind of planned this out. I knew you were going to do something, and I upgraded that part of my board. That was such a good feeling. I think Jamie calls it a positive feedback loop that he wanted to create where you always felt like you weren't ever getting a bad turn. You were always getting a good turn because you're doing
Jamie's
stuff
very
on
smart.
yours.
He's very, very smart. I think I actually quoted him at one point in the Inside Game. Which
really?
Was a nice bit of my worlds coming together. Something he'd written on one of his blogs at one point. Jamie's games. I'm actually not the biggest Scythe fan, but I respect the design, and Jamie just does incredible work.
Yep.
You've played both on BGA and on the table, you said, for this, right, Keith?
Yes.
Okay. I've only played it on BGA once or twice with you and Kelly, and once with Dean, actually, before we did an episode of Meepletown, and that was our review with it. And there was actually something that was good that we came across. I think it was Paul Grogan said, play one game, your first game, out loud. So all of your choices as you're thinking through for like a practice game, if you're the kind of person who could say, speak it out loud, because you don't know the cards yet, you're not thinking about all of that.
No, and there's a lot of
the idea of speaking it out loud helped wrap my head around a lot of the moving parts. I think you're right. It's not heavy, but there are lots of gears.
Yes, absolutely. To me, which I think that's where we get a little bit in the weeds a little bit, because I tend to think I am writing board game stuff for my baseball audience a lot of the time. And so I try not to make assumptions I don't assume my readership of any of my board game stuff are hardcore board gamers. Some of them are, but it's not everybody.
I did not know that.
Oh, I get notes from people, scouts, people in front offices. I'll never forget going to see a kid, Aiden Weaver, who's now in the bullpen at Duke. He didn't sign out of high school. And a scout is standing there, says to me, I think it was Azul. And he said, my wife and I really like Azul. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
It was great, right? You just love those. They're not, he's not I don't believe, I've talked to him since. Like, he's not a hardcore board game or anything. So I've always got to assume I'm reaching, I guess, the lay audience, right? The people who don't necessarily know our terminology, or, and I use try to use the right terms, but also put them in context so people can understand. And Earth is one of those games. If you put this on the table and play it with somebody who play it with one of those like Monopoly people,
yep,
they're going to say, what do you mean this isn't complex? This game is insane.
Yeah.
There's 80 parts. I need to learn a new language of icons. Are these hieroglyphs?
Yeah. Correct.
That is so. And I wonder if we're doing a disservice by saying this game isn't that complex. I try to put it in the proper context in sort of the scale of board games. It's not like a Vita Lacerda game in terms of complexity, but we all need to remember, most people will look at Earth and say, that's really complicated, because it kind of is. If you haven't played a lot of games, especially if you haven't played Wingspan, right? Earth is going to look crazy. It looks going to, or it's ilk, right? Earth is going to look like a really busy, involved game where I have to learn a lot of things. And you might lose people at that point, which, to me, I'm not one of those folks who denigrates gateway games. I love gateway games. I love them to play them myself, and I love them because they're a great way for me to introduce people to the hobby. But we should all kind of keep in mind that Earth is one of those where, Stevie, the point you just made, it's not super complicated, but there are a lot of gears here. And for some people, that's going to seem very intimidating.
Some nice words from Carlos for you there, Keith. This is so cool. I'm geeking out.
Thank you, Carlos.
Recommended Keith's book so many times. I made my kid read it. What were you going to say, Steve?
Oh,
wait,
major kid. Did Carlos also make his kid log it and start
Did you make him write
a spreadsheet about having read it? I think you've got a real good point here about it being complex. And I think something that a lot of gamers might like about it that is complex, that's new, is the idea that when you're building that tableau is kind of freeform. It is limited to the 16, the 4x4, but you can build up or to the side, or in linear and vertical. And that, I think, would probably take some people who are gamers and think, oh, I like that. That's new to me. But you add that to somebody who's playing this for the first time, and they're saying, you mean I'm going to have to move all of these cards to make room for more stuff? And the on the table stuff, I need
a bigger table.
I need a bigger table, or I need to have known that I was going to go in this direction, because now I have to slide these things that are balancing on the cards over to the left to make room for this tableau to grow.
I like to talk about complexity, though. My mom is a world-class blackjack player. Like, I mean, she is really good at blackjack. And we brought out Bonanza. Total brain melt. I mean, like, she tells me to this day, I still don't understand that bean game. And, for us in the hobby, that's one of Uwe's absolutely most accessible game designs. It's back when he was designing nothing but family-friendly card games. That's what he was doing. So we got to remember that, the lingo, or throw out deck building to someone who's never played games before. And
worker placement, tableau building, engine building.
So it's a little bit more complex than we're making it out to be. Earth, it's got some meat to it.
I think folks who are watching this, who've played a bunch of games, a bunch of these types of games that we're talking about, will look at Earth and say, I can figure this out. I get this. Like I said, for first timer, this is not one I'm going to break out. We're having a big game night this weekend, actually. I'll have this in the house. I have it in the house if anybody wants to play it, for sure. It's not one I'm going to immediately bring out. We haven't figured. Hold on. You're not in the count. Right. We have carefully calibrated the food.
Right. So. Yeah. Have you seen the video with Manny? I think it's Manny Patinkin from St. Elsewhere, when he's trying to learn Wingspan with his wife and his grandkids.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yes.
And everything he's saying, I'm like, wow, that is true. If you've never played games before, he has no idea what these terms. Tableau. What is a tableau? Show me this tableau.
You just can't, right? You just have to. But it's not. I'm a little bit fortunate in that I get this in my day job too, where when people want to ask me about players I've seen, players I've scouted, I have to explain it without using the scouting vernacular, right? The jargon is just going to lose people. And so, just even something as simple as describing a pitcher's command. If you're not a serious baseball fan, that term probably doesn't mean a whole lot to you. You've heard it, but you really couldn't define it. So I just try to stay away from that and stick to things that I can still get the message across. It's just using different language to do so. You don't have to lose anything, but you're just trying to, I mean, it's a good brain exercise, right? Just trying to explain yourself using different language and
it's the
make
way
sure
it is in
that it's
every
inclusive.
profession, though, too. I mean, we have a jargon for a reason in the profession because it works as shorthand for us.
Yeah.
But jargon to someone who's not in the profession or who's not in the hobby yet is a border. It's a wall. And we shouldn't be building that up until they're, and we should be getting them in before we show them that there are heavier terms to describe these things.
Yeah, I always tell people this is a highly inclusive hobby. Like you can go to a convention, and I've been to several. I've been to Gen Con many times, PAX every time they've PAX Unplugged every time they've held it. I've been to Origins. At some point, I'll go to more. It's really inclusive. You can go to these things and feel very, very welcome. You can sit down at a table with complete strangers. You can sit down at a table where they all know each other and they don't know you, and you will feel included and you will feel part of it. And I always tell people Gen Con is one of my favorite weekends of the entire year. And one of the big reasons is I just feel very at home. It doesn't matter. You know, there are people I know, but before I even knew many people there, I would just go there and, like I said, you just sit down with strangers and play a game. And by the end, you may not be best friends. You're not sharing numbers, but you've had a shared experience with other people and you feel like you're part of something.
It's a comfort level, you know,
very much.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about the lingo. You don't have to worry about anything else. That is a good point. BJ from Board Game Gumbo, got my guest here, Keith Law, and we're talking spicy hot games. One of those games, the game I tried this weekend. I just want to do a quick wrap up with you, Keith. Have you played Iki? It's up for the spiel, the Kenner spiel.
So I was surprised a little bit because this game isn't new. It's the original is like 6 years old.
2015. 2015, would you believe?
It's 8 years old.
Yeah.
And so I think it was, I don't know if it was Scorpion Masque or Sorry We Are French.
Sorry We Are French.
I have to say that.
Pardon?
One of them brought it over, right? They brought out the first English language version of this. If you go online, people were importing foreign language version or non-English languages.
Good night, Jake.
Language versions.
See you later.
It is, and I like it. It's not that I dislike it, but I just kept, as soon as I saw this got nominated, I said, I thought that was for new games. Maybe I don't know. It'd be like the Oscars nominating the Shakespeare in Love is up for the best picture again this year. Why not? Right? Like, no, I think that's not new. I don't think that's how that works. But maybe that's just my highly technical brain thinking like, no, these are the rules.
And you know the reason why, right?
Why is it eligible again?
Yeah. So the reason is because what the German award is for games published in German that have widely available, or I forget the German translation, but it's basically widely available. So the time it came out the first time, it was really a very, very small imprint. Yes. It came out at Essen. The copy you're thinking about is 2018, 2019, 2020 time, something like that. Okay. And that was that English translation. Again, very small imprint. It was a Kickstarter that had been delivering, and still you can't buy it. The spiel is all about a game that when we publish it, the publisher has to be able to sell 200,000 copies. Like you got to get ready, because if you go to a Walgreens or whatever it is in Germany, you know, there's a rack of board games there. So that was one of the things they're looking for. When was it widely available? It's strange to us, but I was talking to Stefan, one of the Spiel jury guys at BGG Con. They are nice enough to come to BGG Spring with suitcases of games, and they just teach them all. All of the Spiel nominees are there, and they're teaching them. They're walking around. They're handing out pins. And he was like, "Look, our job is we love the fact that it's become a worldwide board gaming award. This is a German board gaming award."
Yes, it has become the de facto. I don't know what it is. You know, it's not the Pulitzer because that's distinctly an American award.
That's right.
You know, the Booker might be a little bit of a better.
The
it's
Booker
a little bit
award,
more,
maybe.
Right. Yeah, that's at least a little bit more across the Commonwealth, across the English-speaking publishing world. But this is the Spiel is it's our top award. It's the best. There are others. Nothing's reached it.
Right. I'm always looking at those games every year. You know, I'm gonna get
Oh, for
excited
sure.
to try them. There's very few of them, especially on the Kinderspiel nominees. There's very few that I've played that I haven't enjoyed. So I'm gonna try those.
Yeah.
And one of
Although,
those,
you know, this interest, the example of Shakespeare in Love. Basically, if they said Shakespeare in Love only appeared in 3 art houses, the spiel would say it's not eligible for the Oscars. If
Right.
not everybody can go see the movie, it's not eligible. If not everybody can go play the game, it's not eligible.
yeah,
which
a
is
wide release.
quite the opposite, actually, because I didn't see Living was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Actor for Bill Nighy. And it played I live in Wilmington, Delaware, for folks who don't know. It played in one of our art house theaters one weekend, maybe. Otherwise, it would have had to. Yeah. No, even after. It was later than that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was very close to, it was like late February, so very close to the actual Oscar ceremony. And that was it. Otherwise, if I had wanted to see that, I would have had to go to Philadelphia, which I have done, obviously. But, you know, I have multiple jobs, as it turns out. So I just didn't have time. And it's like, eventually it's going to show up on streaming,
He's
right?
a busy guy.
I think we watched it in like late April, and I loved it. I mean, I thought that movie was
he's got to take turns with Kelly. I mean, he's a busy guy.
And Dean, yes.
And reminding Dean is, you know.
Yeah.
That's
We're still
okay,
playing. We've taken like 3 turns, actually, while this was going.
Keith, I did not play Iki.
If I lose the game, it's all your fault.
I did not play Iki until Sunday because, to be honest.
Yeah, so what'd you think? Yeah.
Well, to be honest, I was like, it's just not that. You know, I'd walk by and see people playing. I was like, man, this looks like just yet another moving piece around. And then I played it, and I have not stopped thinking about it. I get it. My buddy Bradley was like, what's the beauty of this game? It does everything we already know. It just does it well.
Oh, interesting.
And there's nothing wrong with games like that. I have a couple of games in my collection where they're not anything. Red Cathedral is one. Red Cathedral doesn't do anything that we haven't seen before.
It
does
game.
it well, though.
Does it so well.
It does it smooth.
In a small box. That's my number one thing.
Box.
Yes.
Toledo.
The box is smaller than my computer. I love it.
Toledo does there's very little in Toledo that we haven't seen before, but it meshes it well. And that's, I think, what I liked about Iki. I also loved I love games that have a rondelle. This is the weirdest rondelle I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's so what it's based on. Verla, have you played Iki yet? No.
I have not seen it in the wild.
Apparently, there's a famous painting from the Edo market from 100 years ago, and it's this beautiful painting showing all the people crowded around the street going to the market. The whole game is based on that. You're going to send your people into the market to walk around and interact with these shops. Interacting with the shops actually also makes the shop owner move experience. In other words, getting you income or points or little bonuses. But you control the shops. You get to actually put it out. I got into a little bit of hot water when I said that this was Flamecraft if they injected fun into Flamecraft. That I'm doing shtick. I enjoy Flamecraft, but between the two of them, this is what Flamecraft was going for.
It's funny. That's what my buddy Mike Ganade of Rock Manor Games.
Yeah, Mike.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, he lives 5 minutes from here, and his younger daughter, my youngest stepdaughter, are in school together. And
good night, Patrick.
We have
Good night, friend.
we do sometimes when the kids are in school, we get together to try out a new game in the afternoon, which everyone thinks is hilarious because we're having a play date.
Yes.
Dad's having a play date.
That's not wrong, actually.
It's true.
Mike said almost exactly that about Flamecraft. Like he was like, it looks great. You know, he couldn't criticize it, but I think he thought it was missing that oomph.
There's no tension.
I'm not putting words in Mike's mouth, but
there's no tension. It's a waterfall of resources, which I always claim to like in games that don't have it. But here's a game that presented it, said, you know, BJ, you've been complaining for years that all these games are so tight. You can never do what you want to do. Great. Yeah. We're going to give you 18 resources on every turn. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of boring.
Yeah.
Iki is not. Iki has a tight economy, except for sandals. I never had trouble getting sandals, but everything else had a nice tight economy. I love the way that the shops come out, that you get to pick the shops and pay for them, but you got to be careful because if you pick the best spots, they are likely to be burned if you're not careful with your fire watch. Yeah. So there's just a lot of things going on in this thing, a lot deeper than I thought. And of the 3 games, Planet Unknown, Iki, and Challengers, it was the most complex, in my opinion, the most complex of the 3.
I really want to play Planet Unknown. I saw a demo at Gen Con. I think it was Gen Con. They'd already sold out.
Yeah.
Or had nearly sold. They were about to sell out, something like that. I mean, that was one at Gen Con too, where end of day one, they were wiped out. People were really into it. I was like, this looks right up my alley. Yeah.
That was my top new game of last year, tied with Tealetum.
Planet
Unknown. Decide which one I like more.
Oh, we got a side comment here.
Planet Unknown all day.
Okay, here's a test. How long does Keith stay on the show? Here we go. Beans and Dice. Carlos says, what baseball themed game would Keith recommend?
We were going to talk about that, right?
We were. We got sidetracked with the Kelly discussion for a while. What if you had to recommend one game? What would it be?
It's actually the one you suggested. It's Baseball Highlight 2045 because it's not really a baseball
first
game,
mention, right?
It is. There's some baseballish stuff in it. It's very cheeky, and I like that. I just think games that have tried to do baseball have generally not gotten the baseball right. I'm not counting Stratomatic. That was the one I was going to say. Bottom of the ninth absolutely has its merits. It's probably the best of all the games that's just trying to play it straight. I'm not counting Stratomatic. That's a whole different animal.
What about Micro League Baseball?
That's it. Playing that.
Did you play it really?
Oh yeah.
Oh my god!
I loved Micro League.
Oh my god!
That whole thing where it was like, and you're just waiting. You're waiting, right? Strike three. Oh my god!
Gil Hodges struck out again. Oh my god! These guys are terrible.
Disc out. Restart the computer.
That
so and then Earl Weaver baseball. Those are my
Keith, I got to tell you, when we would play Micro League Baseball in my dorm room at LSU, we would play, and sometimes I would pick one of there was a Canadian team, I think, or you would play in a Canadian park, and I'd make the guys stand up and sing "Oh Canada." Remember at the start, it would play they would all like click the button so we don't have to go. We have to stand up and do "Oh Canada" because nobody knows the words to it, or at least we didn't. So
absolutely remember that.
Oh, somebody finally remembered Micro League Baseball. Oh, that's great,
absolutely.
We've been doing. You know what? Now, Steve, the show's over. I'm only doing this show for 6 years to try to find somebody that had played Micro League Baseball.
That was the super secret hidden end game condition.
It was exactly. We hit it. Baseball Highlights 2045. I will tell you this: Beans and Dice, Carlos, he knows what I'm talking about. I have recommended Baseball Highlights 2045 many times after Alex Goldsmith, R.I.P. the Dukes of Dice, who brought it to my attention many years ago, back in 2017 or whatever it was. But if you just play it one night and play like one game, or I'm talking about one game as in one actual game, just 6 cards, you're not going to get the game. It's not going to be fun. Don't even do that. The best part of that game is playing a full World Series with your best friend, or a tournament game. Playing in a tournament. Shout out to Philip Millman. We've done as many as 32 people in the tournament at the Dice Tower East. 32 people, and that is, as Dean says, it's best in tournament mode. But the World Series mode is great too because you get to really get into it. But it shines in tournament mode. And I talked to Mike about it one day at Gen Con. He said, "I designed this game for tournament mode. I want people to play it that way." So
I believe it.
Baseball Highlights 2045. Well, back to Iki for a second. Challengers is the one I think's going to win.
Okay.
For reasons, we'll talk about in other shows. But Iki is the one, and Challenge is the one I actually bought and brought back, and we're going to be playing it this week. But Iki is the one I'm still thinking about. So I've got more to explore in Iki. I really enjoyed it. Yes, it does everything we're familiar with, but I just like the way it's put together. The art is gorgeous. The production,
it is gorgeous. Amazing. It looks amazing. That was my number one thing about it was, it looks incredible. I will admit,
drawn in.
I am a little bit biased. Like, we have lots of games set in the Edo period of Japan. Like, I don't know how many more of these we need, but I think the designer of this is actually Japanese, which is a welcome change from many of the other games set there. Like, hey, I love Tokaido, and what's the sequel, Namaji? Those are great
Yokohama
games,
right?
Again, I don't know how many we need. Kanagawa, I think, also is drawn from that period. So, and these are all designed by not Japanese people. That's not necessarily great. So the fact that this is designed by a Japanese game designer is great. I love to see that. The thing that pushed me away a little bit from this game, and the other reason I was a little bit surprised to see it nominated, I agree with everything you said. It's a little much, and it's not so much that it's over complex, but it packs a lot of different mechanics in together, and I found it very hard to get the rhythm of the game to really feel like, what were we were talking about Earth, I think, in a green room before, where I was like, I get this game. I understand. It was almost like I could understand what the designer intended, not necessarily to play it well, because I certainly wouldn't claim that, but I know what we're doing here. I understand the internal clockwork of the game. And with Iki, it was like, I'm not getting this. I'm not quite feeling this on that. That there's just, it's hard to put a word to it, but you play a game sometimes, you're like, I am on this game's wavelength. I suck at it, but I'm really on this game's wavelength. That's a great feeling. And with Iki, I was like, this is a good game. It's definitely not.
This is me and Snow Bunny right there with Stefan from the Spiel right after our first play. So I dug it. I can't wait to play it again.
Right.
Chad did not get to play it, but he says you can't have too many Japanese games. So we'll have to see. That is Iki. I don't remember who's publishing it here. Maybe it is Sorry We're Not French. It's
one of the Hachettes, right? They have Hachette has rolled up a whole bunch of those publishers.
Oh, okay.
It's one of theirs.
Hachette.
Yeah.
Stefan was telling me
they're putting out some incredible games now.
Stefan was telling me that they were very proud that 2 of the nominees were from very tiny one-person companies, like Adam's Apple Games with Planet Unknown. That's basically one or two people.
Yeah.
So yes, Asmodee did get a nomination, but that it's nice to see some small independent publishers get that.
Yep.
Well, this is a board game show, Keith Law. So you know what that means.
All right. What does it mean?
We got to play a board game.
Oh, okay, great.
And this is where I turn the show over to Steve and Verla. Steve, tell us about the game we're going to be playing tonight.
We have brought Jambalaya back. The idea of this game is it is a word mashup game. Mm-hmm. What we're going to do is give a long clue that is going to have in it 2 things that you're going to have to smush together. They will hopefully be smoothly combined.
Every time.
It'll be some kind of like a portmanteau of some sort where there'll be a before and after, or you kind of mash them up. We've kind of tailored it to games that we know either you have or have reviewed, but also there's a pretty solid baseball bias to this. So when we do this, BJ will read out the clue, and then it'll be a race between whoever's left in the chat wants to try and beat you to the punch. Can they type faster than you can talk?
All right, let me close the comments here so I can't.
Exactly. Yes. But they get lots of people typing at the same time. So they got the hive mind going. If the group gets it, you've got to outnumber all of them. So we'll count at the end, see who had the most of them right, and just basically have some fun with it.
We do try to steer the Jambalaya toward your hobby, board games and baseball. The only time we messed up, remember, that we did with Rob Davio, we did food. And I knew he was a Beatles fan.
Yeah.
We had done the Beatles questions the week before with TC Petty.
With TC, that's
and Rob was like, I would have done the Beatles. And so after the show ended, we stayed on another hour and he made us go through every single. And by the way, he did very well on those Beatles.
He was not wrong. He was not wrong.
The dude knows his Beatles music, that's for sure. Yeah. So we messed up. But hopefully baseball is something that you're coming with. So. Take it away, Steve. What's our first?
You want to give the sample version because we might need to remind some of the chat folks too, because I don't think they've.
It's been a long time since we've played this game.
It's been a while since we've done this.
I need a reminder.
All right, we got a special guest. We have to break out the special game. That's what we have to do.
Do you want to MC it or shall I?
Oh, you do the give the sample out. I'll do the sample. Still doing some typing. Okay.
So let me pull it
I'm taking my turns with Dean right now, so I'm not really paying attention to the show.
So here's your sample.
Not wrong.
Here's your sample. The clue would be that every team retired the number 24 in his honor for breaking the color barrier in baseball. But what if he also had to survive on a desert island in this incredibly difficult co-op game?
Well, he's channeling it.
I saw the answer.
Oh, that's right. He did.
I saw it in the roundup.
And the answer
I could have acted all.
And the answer would be Jackie Robinson Crusoe.
Yeah, you should have done oh man, that's a really wait a minute. Wait a minute. All right, get to the real one, Steve. You'll do the first one, and we'll just we'll take turns. Okay.
So you want to just go through them in order we got in there, BJ?
Yeah. Let me do the first one, and then you can do the second one if that's okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So our first one, chat crew, get ready, get your fingers ready. See if you can beat Keith on this one. This Shem Phillips game is about rescuing the Seattle Mariners. Remember, I told you to put a pin in it. From the designers of a rightfully forgotten multi-purpose stadium of the 1970s. The Shem Phillips game.
Architects of the West Kingdom.
It is the West Kingdom.
Nice.
You know, it's funny that you said this one, set this one up, Steve. I follow this this Twitter handle that is like old baseball pictures. I can't remember the Keith. I know you know the one I'm talking about. There's a guy that's just posts all kind of old pictures, videos, and everything. But he also did all the 1970s cookie cutter stadiums all next to each other today.
Oh God,
they're just so ugly. Oh my God,
oh, they're horrible.
Fulton County.
I was at the Kingdom the night that Randy Johnson was traded.
Ah,
Actually,
wow, yeah.
That stadium was horrible.
I saw Dale Murphy hit a homer at the at Fulton County one time, but
There you go.
I don't remember anything about the stadium. It was just a terrible stadium.
Oh, they're terrible. I went to the le Stade Olympique.
Yes,
Montreal.
Les
That was
Expos.
horrible.
Les Expos.
Horrible.
So I tell the
Everything was
story
bad.
to Steve.
The bathrooms were bad at that place.
My mom and dad speak French, and we go to this campground in Montreal, and we turn on the TV, and the Expos go on, Les Expos, and I'm like, Dad, they're broadcasting it in French. He's like, yeah, man, we're in Quebec. Come on. So that was a big thrill for a Cajun to hear a baseball game in French. That was really cool. So, all right, Steve, you're up.
very good. So Keith's got the first one. Here's your next one.
1 point for Steve. He just sniped Carlos on that one. Yeah, tell a Rays fan about bad stadiums. Are they still? Are y'all still playing in that?
The
terrible
mausoleum?
stadium?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, they are.
Still? Oh wow.
Yeah.
Why can't you be like the Rangers and change out stadiums every 10 years, man?
Oh my God. Yeah. Or Vegas.
Okay. Here's your next clue. Sherlock Holmes is consulted in this mystery of who's the longtime Dodger player who went on to manage the Giants, Cubs, Reds, Nationals, and Astros.
I can give him a visual clue if you want, Steve.
I mean, I know who the manager is. I don't want to say it to spoil.
Yeah, you're guarding your information.
He knows how to play this
what the
game.
is, though.
So we had was it Mandy from the Dice Tower? She would think out loud. She would be like, "Oh yeah, y'all are talking about Salatum. Let me go." Blah, blah. And then the chat crew would just get it right away. Like, Mandy, hold it in if you can.
Focus on the last name if you've got the.
Okay,
Steve, can you read the clue again?
Oh, you got the order flipped?
Sherlock Holmes is consulted in this mystery of who's the longtime Dodger player who
It's
went
not
on to manage the Giants, Cubs, Reds, Nationals, and Astros.
To be fair, Keith, it's not necessarily a portmanteau. It can
be sandwiched
a
in the
mashup
middle.
or a portmanteau.
Oh, like something dusty. What was that? Beyond Baker Street?
Beyond
Dusty Baker Street?
Yes. Dusty Baker Street.
Oh, I'm trying to make an actual portmanteau, and I was like, that doesn't.
They often are, but sometimes they have to be kind of Oreoed and sandwiched somehow in there.
I got
it's
it.
Jambalaya. It's kind of mixed up a little bit, right? It's
Jambalaya.
Yeah. All right. What if Keith? I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What if the AL was represented by the Swamp Ghouls in the Fall Classic, and the NL was represented by the Diplomat Halflings? Wait, that would be the major leagues playing the minor leagues, because the National League's the majors and the AL is the so then you'd have the what? The AL is represented by the Swamp Ghouls in the Fall Classic, and the NL represented by the Diplomat Halflings. What game would you be playing?
The Small World Series.
Small World Series. Oh man, chat crew, you guys are in trouble.
On a roll.
He's gonna kill these, man.
All right. Do we need to jump ahead to some more challenging material here?
Get one more.
One more. We'll see how it goes. Okay.
You want the guests to feel comfortable.
All right. Uwe Rosenberg's heavyweight 1 or 2 player game about farming, building dikes, needing to store baseballs in a humidor at altitude.
Course Fields of Arl.
Yeah.
That last one, don't you think? That last one is kind of the giveaway there, the humidor. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
I was trying to figure out, was this going to be like where we go, like Josh Fields of Arl or something? Yes.
Could have been. Could have been.
So Verla, are you keeping score? Are you 4 for 4 now?
Keith is 4 for 4, yeah.
In your head? Yeah. Okay.
Right. I'm not going to get any of these.
All right.
Like
a little more challenging, but maybe not. Dean, we're not going to get any. The chat is not even attempting to beat you, Keith. That's how you're getting them so quick. All right. Phil Walker Harding does it again with this bingo-like flipping right, where you have to record the at-bats, hits, runs, RBIs, walks, strikeouts, and all kinds of stats for every player.
I know
in
the game.
Super mega lucky box score.
These are Steve, we must be rusty because he's just really killing it. I don't know if anybody's gone 5 for 5 like this. We're gonna have to tune it up a little bit.
You know, the only other person who showed that kind of streaky was Elizabeth Hargrave.
Hargrave was
She
good.
was
TC
She
Petty
was kind of on
Pretty
fire.
damn smart.
yeah.
Hargrave was good. TC Petty was good. Rob was
Yep.
good.
Yep.
All right,
All
you're
right.
up. Pick one, Steve. I'm letting you pick. From
You want to
here
let
on
me pick
out.
one? You want to go in order?
It's up to you. If
All right,
you
I'll take
see
the next
something
one
you
in
like-
order because I like this one too.
Okay.
The famed lyric Little Bandbox, which is the home of my beloved team, turns out to house the spirit of one of the great old ones who seek to consume the earth.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
It's highlighted in red too.
One of the great old ones who seek to consume the earth.
Yep.
Yes. He did not write these questions, Dean, and I think we saw chat crew. This is your chance.
Yeah.
All right.
Jump in, chat crew.
I know the
Oh.
first part. I have no idea what's the game. What is the board game connection here?
Oh, he scored 4 runs in the first inning, but the game's not over. Come on, guys. It's baseball.
So let's see. What would be the second part to get one of the great old ones? You'd have to go to a particular writer.
Yeah, I know. Right.
So, do you have the game, or are you struggling with the other part?
Oh, like Fenway Park Cam Horror.
Oh, he's got
And they
it.
Markham Horror.
Wow.
Oh,
No, I love that one. I thought that was a great
yes.
job, Steve.
Okay. Yeah.
That's-
Now I get it.
That's a good one.
I'm a very literal thinker, so I was like, Park. I know Parks. That's not a Cthulhu game, so that's clearly
Mhm.
not. Although Parks of Cthulhu might be an interesting mashup. Yeah.
I'm gonna
Attention
skip the,
Keymaster Games. I'm
Skip
just
the
giving
next
you free
one?
ideas here.
No, you can do the next one. I just want to. I
No,
like
no,
the
skip
next.
it. I'll just make a note. We can come back.
Yeah,
maybe.
I just love the next one for particular reasons. I grew up a Dodger fan, so this is a particular this one I like a lot. What if the Dominican Republic produced more Baroque musicians instead of baseball players?
Like Lacrimose Santo Domingo.
Close.
You've gone off script on me here, BJ.
We'd probably be playing this highly rated music themed game about Mozart. You got that part already.
Yeah.
You got that part already. This one I think is going to be a little tough. I might have
Lacrimose
This one-
San
this-
Pedro de Macorís.
He's close. He's close.
I think I know where you're going with this, BJ, but I think this is
Steve,
gonna be
yes.
tougher. If he's looking for a portmanteau or a mashup, you're going to have to.
Hey, steal it from Keith. Take it. That's why
Oh,
I hid
you-
the clue.
Are you saying Lacrimosa Sosa?
I'll give it to you. It's Lacrimose Sosa.
Yeah, yeah. I disavow knowledge of that one. The rest of them so far have been mine, but this
Love
one,
that one. Lacrimose Sosa. Come on.
Lacrimosa
Sammy
Sosa. Yeah.
Oh man, that brings
Yeah.
back some good memories. Okay, so you can get the next one. I'm gonna give Dean the look. Dean has it.
Dean had it.
Lacrimoso. I mean, that's pretty close, right? You don't have to have the
Sure.
Sammy.
Give it to him.
Sammy would be upset if you didn't have
course.
his name.
All right.
Okay. Yes, Dean, you got a point. So Dean's got a point.
You want to start jumping around a little bit here, BJ?
You pick. I wanted you and Verla to get in the game, so I wrote a
All
couple of them. He didn't know I did this, Keith. So I wrote. a
Yeah,
couple
that
of
was
them down.
the off script. I'm gonna throw this one in there. Okay. This was one that I liked, but it might be going a little bit deep. Let's think about this. Mash up an old school 1980s World War II game with probably the best pitcher in Dodgers history, and you get
Sandy Koufaxis and allies.
Koufaxis and allies.
Yeah, that's a nice one. All right, back to me. You ready? You ready?
Oh
Steve?
no, the answer is not if you're giggling.
No cheating. No cheating. I don't remember the answer, so I'm gonna actually play with you guys because I did this. I did this a couple weeks ago.
You don't remember the answer to the one you wrote, so it's fair for you
That's
to play.
great. That'll go great.
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? It's a deduction game set in the Alice of Wonderland universe, but I don't think it's ever gonna make the Hall of Fame. Oh my God, what was I thinking?
Paint the Pete Roses.
Yes, Meet the Pete Roses. That's it. That's it.
Paint the Pete Roses,
Paint.
right?
I knew it was Paint the Roses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see. Paint the Pete Roses. Very nice. I forgot my own clue. That's a good one. Oh, he got that one good. So it wasn't that hard.
All right.
He is
I'm
very
gonna go
quick.
See if this one.
I'm going to say he's the best player we've had on
So
Jambalaya.
far, so good. I want to dig in here and see if I could find something that might have been a little.
All right, while you're doing that, I'm going to do one real quick. Crash Davis. Familiar?
Mhm.
Nuke LaLoosh.
Mm-hmm.
They finally get their chance in the big leagues. only to find out that they're traveling from North Carolina to Turkey's cosmopolitan city of markets and mosques.
Istanbul, Durham.
Istanbul, Durham. Yeah.
All right.
He's like a cat toying with a mouse right now. You
Yeah,
realize that, Steve?
yes,
Like we're
I
throwing
do.
softballs. We're throwing softballs at him.
This
There have been some awkward moments on the show where we were really too deep, and you're just killing it, Keith. So
yeah.
we should have gone deeper.
We need to go with some higher, harder stuff here.
Yeah.
We've been throwing salad, as Eck would
Throw
say.
a brush back. Give him the brush back, because I did not like the way he stared at me at the last inning.
Yeah, he looked you right down.
Yeah,
No,
you're gonna try to
these are
throw
unwritten
something soft
rules.
away, and I'm just gonna. I don't care if you brush me back. I'm not backing off the plate.
All right, here we go.
These are unwritten rules.
I'm gonna
Unwritten
cover the outer
rules.
third.
Yeah.
All right. This old school baseball stat was once a very big deal for evaluating hitters, but now it's become far more important in ancient Celtic lands to evaluate who should become the leader of the new island clan.
Runs batted Innis.
Oh, runs batted Inish.
You're really good at this. he's knocking him out. Let's see.
Sorry, chat crew. We don't stand a chance.
All right, Steve. I didn't want to say this one because Steve, I knew this one, but I had to really think about this one for a while. So let's see. Rest in peace, Keith, to the 1960s and 70s pitching great who passed away recently. We will commemorate his career by playing this island-themed worker placement game by the Good Doctor.
Who's the good doctor?
Reiner Knizia.
As Mick and Starless say, the evil bow tie.
The Good Doctor. By the Good Doctor.
Yes.
Dr. Reiner Knizia. Rest in peace, chat crew. To the 1960s and 70s pitching great who passed away in the last week, we will commemorate his career, 2 weeks ago, we will commemorate his career by playing this island-themed worker placement game by Reiner Knizia. You know, we were throwing a lot of softballs on the games themselves. The baseball thing, he's literally just smashing.
True.
Right.
They're like meatballs coming down the plate.
Yeah, we're throwing beach balls.
We got to look for the ones that have the deeper games. Because I know he knows the game. It's just putting that connection. And if I keep talking a lot, it's going to distract him even more.
I haven't been listening to you for the last hour and a half.
That's true. That's fair. He fits in perfectly.
He understands the nature of the show, Pete.
It's like my game group. It's like, okay, what do you do?
Kelly's right. Knizia's made 700 games. Which one?
Which one? Yeah.
The island one, Mom.
The
The other one. Yeah.
You tell her, brother.
I'm going to call it. I think I've stumped everybody. And this is Steve's, by the way, not mine.
An island-themed worker placement game?
Island-themed worker.
Relatively recently. I think it's
Oh,
the
it's
last
Blue
3 or
Lagoon.
4. There it is.
Vita Blue Lagoon. Oh my god.
Oh my
I was trying to remember who just died. I'm like, who the hell just died recently?
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Vita Blue Lagoon. Yeah.
It's true. Jared does listen, so I appreciate that, Jared. You do listen. Hey, that we almost stumped on that. That was nicely done, Steve.
Mhm.
Keith, we had you for
Yeah.
a little while there, huh?
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
But you had the game right away, or was it the game you were struggling with?
I was trying to get the picture, right? I was like, who just died? And for some reason, I was thinking more of like Hall of Fame names, just because honestly, the problem with baseball, they've been playing for so long, right?
Yeah.
It's like every day, somebody who spent some time in the big leagues passes away. And
Yeah.
so I think they just go quickly enough. And Vita Blue is just before my era.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
If I were 3 years older, it would have hit a little bit harder. Like I know people who were just a couple of years older than me who are like, I have such memories of Vita Blue at his peak. And for folks who don't know, there was this story he played for the Oakland A's when they had this completely bonkers owner, Charlie Finley, who tried to pay Vita Blue to change his first name to True.
I didn't know this story.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, Charlie Finley. I mean, they make for great stories. He apparently was a lunatic to work for.
Right.
But I mean, now with hindsight, right, and it's 50 years gone, it's like, oh, these stories are hilarious. Yeah, except it was complete insanity, apparently. He never wanted to pay anybody.
True Blue.
Anyway, True Blue, yes. So Vita Blue was just at the very tail end of his career as I was coming into my baseball fandom.
Vita Blue and JR
Richard.
from the Astros.
J.R. Richard.
Oh, those two guys.
Oh my God.
Those two guys were amazing all the time. All right, you got one, Steve?
Yeah, this one's.
Let's
I
do-
just had fun with this one.
Let's do each one more. How's that? And then we'll
Each
call
one
it.
more.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So
Pick a good one.
Pick. What did we skip over?
Don't pick the one I'm picking.
Don't pick. Well, tell me. Don't pick the one you're picking. All right. Here we go. Throw this one in there. Instead of tiling the walls of a Portuguese palace, what if Michael Kiesling had you tiling the famed Green Monster in Boston? This Red Sox Hall of Fame left fielder and one of my all-time favorites might have had a different nickname.
I know the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just trying to match, and I know the player. I know them both. How do I mush those together? It's Yastrzemski, right?
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Carl Yastrzemski.
Just go with the nickname.
Yazul.
Yazul.
Oh, he was Yaz, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yaz.
Yep.
Yazul.
Yes. Nicely done. All right. One last one. Let's go out. Let's go out on an easy one.
All right.
An exploration themed game.
What?
Sorry. An exploration themed game.
Okay.
Created by two great Italian designers, which now includes the stadium where Bobby Thompson hit the homer known as the shot heard round the world.
Marco Polo grounds?
He's got it.
The Voyages of Marco Polo grounds.
Voyages. Yeah. I was going to say it's not the Adventures of Marco Polo. What the heck?
We all call it Marco Polo.
Actually, I've never played that.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I've got weird gaps in my, like, for some of the older games, some of which I own. I own Notre Dame. I've actually never played it. I played half a game once and then had to leave at a convention. It's a long story. Everything's fine, but like I just never got to finish the game. That's it. I still own the game and I refuse to part with it until I actually play it one time through.
It's a great game.
Then I could trade. It's a great game, right? Everyone says it's a great game. I should say. I don't.
You know, I used to think that there were holes in gameplay, and then after being in this hobby for almost 20 years now, and still haven't played 99% of the games, and just a million great games. I don't ever go to a convention without seeing at least 50 games that I want to play, or having people tell me about games. And I've played a lot of games. So I realized that the pace of the amount of games that are coming out compared to the amount of games that have been great for the last 20 or 30 years, I'm just never going to catch up to it.
You're never going to catch up. You're never going to catch up.
There's no hole in anybody's gameplay or collection from a negative standpoint. You know, it's just an experience you haven't got to yet.
It's what you want, right? For me, I mean, we all have our shelf of shame, right? Mine is like a little too large. Although I'm hoping to work that down a bit.
What's the number one? I am curious. What's your number one game that's on your shelf of shame and you got to get that played?
I'll give you two, actually. Meadow.
Okay.
Which I've owned probably for 6 months at least.
That seems like a game you would like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of never worked out, right? Like, and honestly, like, you know, I have a job that involves a lot of travel. My wife has essentially a full-time job and then a heavy consulting job. We work a lot in this house. And then my daughter was always super into games, but she's a teenager who's gotten very busy. And now my stepdaughters really want to play games, but I'm sort of right. They've got to get to the point where they can play some of these heavier games. My wife always jokes that I've been like, you know, teaching that as I'm teaching them other things. I'm like, I'm teaching them math. What are you talking about? She's like, you're playing a game. Shut up. I know what you're doing. But the other one is a random one I saw at a con.
Dean's making us laugh. Sorry, Keith.
That's okay.
He has his own clue here.
It's okay. I'm busy kicking his ass in Azul. So
Tiger's most recognized player's talent unmatched by anyone but Sherlock Holmes. Oh, you already saw the comment? It's Ty Coble and Fog.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
I was trying to come up with some Miguel Cabrera pun here.
So what was the other game? What's the other one on your show?
It's a slightly obscure one, but I saw it at Gen Con years ago. And, you know, Asmodee, and I get along great with those guys. They've always been very generous. But they put out so many freaking games. Stuff just gets lost.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a game set in, it's called Ceylon. It's set in Ceylon.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I remember that one.
Looks great.
I never played it.
About tea. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. I own it. I've just never been able to get it to the table because there's always so many other games to play too. And it's not what I'm going to review necessarily. So it doesn't quite get that priority. But it's like, I need to have that game. That game looks really good. And I think it just kind of got overshadowed a little bit. I mean, that happens a lot, I think. I mean, it happens in music, it happens in film, books, whatever. Just, there's such volume of stuff coming out. Sometimes good games just get kind of overlooked and fall out of print. And, if I can ever highlight a game like that, I feel like it's not my job, but I like doing it. I like sharing, hey, there's this game that I love. This is a little less obscure, but La Isla, the Feld game, which has been redone.
It's the one that's getting a new skin next, right?
Yeah, I don't know which city it is, but it's one of those, right? That's a freaking great game. That's a really great game. Before he got 2 pointality for me, that was like sweet spot right there. He lost me around. Yeah, he lost me around Carpe Diem. La Isla was on Yukata. Actually, that's where I first fell in love with it, then got the game. I think that is
Carpe Diem.
It's most people do. I'm in the minority, but that was one where it's like,
we can still be friends.
At that point, okay, good, thank you. It was like Merlin, Carpe Diem. There was one other. I was like, I think I might be out after liking Feld games for a long.
Was it
time.
Was it the race one? What's the one where you're racing around the Greek Isles?
Oracle of Delphi.
Oracle of Delphi.
One.
Dean, this is the one that is on my shelf of shame right now. Vienna, sitting right there. I'd like to get that played.
Is Vienna a Feld? I don't know Vienna, or is that Vienna?
That might be the next one. That's going to be
the next
is
one.
that La Isla?
Yeah, but this is not one by Feld. This is one that came out with Tasty Minstrel, and the only reason I bought it is that Tasty Minstrel went west, and who knows when these games are going to get republished, and they had it on sale for like $10 or $20. I'm like, I always wanted to play it. Going to scoop it up. What about you, Steve or Verla? Do y'all have a shelf of shame game that Keith?
Yeah, I would love to hear yours.
In fact, Keith, rate their shelf of shame game if you have one.
It's actually Feld. It's Hamburg and Amsterdam.
That's the two. Haven't got off. Well, you can't say that shelf of shame.
Those are reskins, right?
I have a shelf of opportunity. I have no shame here.
None mine is Newton.
I am proud of my shelf.
Newton's on there for me too.
I love all the Italian designer games for the most part, and I just haven't played. That's one by Simone Luciani, if I remember right. But I can't remember exactly who designed it. But Newton, and I love all their games, so I feel like I'm gonna like it if I play it. Steve, you got one?
I have Brass Birmingham and haven't played it.
Interesting.
I have only played
I want to play one that Eric has been talking about for a while that I got on his recommendation, At the Gates of Loyang, and I can do that solo, but it still is sitting there staring at me. So I mean, there's nobody's fault but my own at that point. So it's it's literally a shelf of blame rather than shame at that point. I'm pointing the finger at myself.
Hey, bring those games to ChuckCon this summer. We're gonna get our shelves knocked down as much as we can.
Absolutely.
And Keith, hopefully you can get to a con or a game day and get. Now I forgot which game it was off your shelf.
Ceylon.
Meadow, I'm gonna get to play.
Meadow
just looks so pretty.
Yeah, Ceylon.
Somebody did a really nice job on that.
Carlos mentioned Everdell, Nations. I've played Nations, the smaller game, Nations, the dice game many times. I watched Nations, the big game, one time at our game group, and I'm like, man, I'm going to play the dice game instead. So that one, for whatever reason, just never interested me. So that looks like that's about all of the shelf one. All right, board gamers, that's it for another episode of Gumbo Live. I want to thank Keith Law for coming in. How can they reach you if they want to, talk to you about your shelf of opportunity or see your writing? I know Pace Magazine is probably where I see you most, but where can they find you?
I do reviews roughly every 2 weeks for Pace Magazine, give or take. And the day job has me writing about baseball for The Athletic. I also maintain a blog, meadowparty.com/blog. It's been going since 2006 now.
He hasn't played Meadow, and his blog is meadowparty.com.
It's Bloom County. Shut up.
I love Bloom County, by the way. So good reference.
I've had that domain name for more than 20 years, actually.
And you never got a call from Berkeley saying,
no.
What?
I actually tried to reach out to him once and be like, "Is this cool?" He never answered. I was like, all right, fine. I mean, it's not like a trademark, but I was just trying to be courteous.
Yeah. Was it Cutter or Opus who was running?
Wait, who's running?
Well, no, there was two.
Who's running for the Meadow Party?
There was two.
Bill the Cat.
Yeah, it was Billy the Cat.
Bill. Right.
Don't blame me. I voted for Bill and Opus.
Yeah, Bill and Opus. Oh, what year was that? 96? Bill and Opus, 96.
Older than that.
It's older than that. It's mid-80s.
I think they ran repeatedly.
They had the buttons. Remember? They had the buttons.
Yeah. You just had to hang on. We got to go scrape Bill off the bathroom floor. Yes.
Laura Rosa, what a name. Hey, Mom. Thank you for checking in. That's great. Dean says, great show, everyone. Chad says, good. I'll see you at Sobo, Chad. So thank y'all for checking in. Make sure to like our Facebook page, facebook.com/BoardGameGumbo, and our YouTube channel. Helps us get out the word about all of our upcoming shows. We don't have one scheduled for the summer because Keith was the ultimate show for the summer, or the final show for the spring, I mean. So we'll be taking the summer off, but you can catch us on twitch.tv/BoardGameGumbo, where every Tuesday night we play your games live on twitch.tv. I'm BJ from Board Game Gumbo, and for Keith, and for Verla, and for Steve. And until next time, laissez les bon temps rouler.
Have a good night, friends.
Good night, everybody.